Hey cats, it's your midsole man Eddbud here. Very recently I've noticed a very aggressive advertising campaign from Nike. They're placing Air front and center. It's literally everywhere, despite the fact that its chief competitor Adidas are letting us know that the Pro Evo 1 is amongst the lightest shoes of all. Plus, of course, it's got all those podiums. So today I want to discuss whether Nike should move away from Air to stop themselves being left behind by their competitors. Let's get to it. Thanks for tuning in, people. It is always appreciated. Do help the channel to continue to grow by hitting that subscribe button. It's free of charge, don't you know? And give this video a thumbs up like. Drop me your comments as well down below. Always helps out with the algorithm, and I'm keen to see your views and opinions. Air, the Michael Jordan film that released last year. It was an interesting watch about the Jordan legacy and how it began over at Nike. Could have done without the language, I think. There was quite a bit of colourful stuff in there, but it is what it is. Now, why am I talking about this, you might say? I noticed recently Nike have gone really aggressive with the whole Air marketing campaign. Air was like everywhere. Literally, you couldn't get away from it. If you go to Nike Town here in the UK in London, there's like a whole floor dedicated to Air and all their sort of new releases, the Bowerman stuff and the Paris models and colorways too. They're putting the Alphafly 3 front and center of all that advertising. But is that whole Paris lineup and the use of this Air technology really worth the marketing budget? Are the Air units so key to performance that it makes it worthwhile putting the whole marketing budget into it? The whole campaign's really built around this technology. And Nike being very smart about this, knowing that there's a lot of runners out there that really don't care about the super lightness of their slippers. They don't want something that's going to self-destruct really quickly after one marathon race. You know what I'm talking about, right? When I was looking at that Pro Evo 1 shoe from Adidas, it did feel a little bit like the tape recorders that deliver the messages in Mission Impossible. They're like going to self-destruct after a race. Clearly now, a bit down the line, we've realised that isn't quite the case. So delving into the shoe files today to try and figure out whether Air technology really still matters. I've been a subscriber to Runner's World for years. I picked up a copy the other day, had a nice cuppa and a custard cream, and there was this multi-page pull out there dedicated to Nike's Air technology. I instantly felt the need to buy the new Bowerman version of the Alphafly 3. Then I remembered that I've got 2 pairs of those already and I don't really need another pair. Maybe a half size down would make all the difference. It does look beautiful. Ed, no, come on, you must show restraint. Nike are very aggressively marketing this shoe with Air, indicative of those dual Air units up front in the forefoot area. Orange, very bouncy, aggressive, very resilient. Well, unless you're a runner that likes running across nails or something. Over the years, Air has kind of become, you know, something I associate with NPCs wandering around your towns in very tight tracksuit bottoms, hoods up of course with those foolish bags, and in the way Air kind of became part of the whole sort of casual leisure wear kind of industry. Became something of a fashion accessory, I guess, as EVA foams appeared in running shoes, promising softer cushion, and of course those carbon plates. But they're not all that fun to wander around the shops in, are they? Are the Air units really important to Nike's shoes? Let's not forget that these Air units are heavily featured in some of the basketball models as well. I think running shoes and basketball shoes really do go hand in hand in terms of the tech. The GT Hustle 3 basketball model with a larger adjoined airbag there. Also the track options such as the Victory 2 and the Max Fly 2 with various sized Air units placed in the forefoot. I think in terms of the Alphafly 3, it really does actually make a difference. It gives it a bit of distinction over the Vaporfly. The Air pods there and the plate make for a very different ride, and probably the closest thing that I've ever experienced to like a springy sensation, and they do seem to stay a little bit more constant and consistent over those longer distance runs too. I think there's a little bit more energy return or less energy loss here because of those Air units rather than just a complete foam midsole. And I think perhaps the heavier built runners out there will perhaps get a little bit more out of this shoe than somebody like me who's got a very light frame. I think if you're compressing those pods a bit harder, you're just getting a little bit more propulsion, whereas I just barely impact on the surface. I think in the current landscape of running shoe models, people know Air. It's been around for a long time. They know Kipchoge as well and his achievements, of which are many. Runners and sports fans alike all know about Eddbud. And of course, let's not forget he's broken the 2-hour barrier in the marathon, whether it's a race or not. Though of course, I think many people will associate the Alphafly 3 model with Kelvin Kiptum for his marathon world record, sadly, that he won't ever be able to better. RIP. As such, the Alphafly 3 once again finds itself in a very weird position. It's kind of like a limbo, bit like the first version. It was a shoe designed for marathon racing with lots of other participants when there weren't any races or people around. So perhaps a bit of a hard sell back then, especially with the heavier price tag, one of the highest that we'd ever had at that point. With Adidas capturing many world records and podium finishes with their super light Adizero Pro Evo 1 shoe, which measures way lighter than even the Vaporfly 3 from Nike. It's a weird direction for Nike to take with this ad campaign, pumping mega money into advertising a shoe that's pretty much exactly what we had in the first iteration, only we've got even less foam in this one actually. It's sticking to the general template though. Zoom X plus those dual AirPods and a carbon plate. It's almost like they're saying, well, we've put so much money and effort into this shoe, we've got to keep on milking it for all it's worth. I mean, Kipchoge still got the fastest non-race time for the marathon, breaking that 2-hour barrier. You can't get away from that. 1 hour 59:40. Was it the lasers? Was it the pace cars? Was it the course even and the extra trees? Or was it the shoes? I think personally it was just Kipchoge himself. He's the GOAT. When you've got Adidas, who, let's face it, have their own financial issues to overcome right now. I'm talking Mr. Yi. Nike are making cuts everywhere across their whole business as well. I think maybe due to the overzealous move into direct-to-customer sales, I think it does make room for some other brands to claw back a little bit of market share. Now, don't get me wrong, I do think the Alphafly 3 is a really fun shoe to run in. Super compressive, and now it really moves you if you place some effort in there. Is it worth the extra though over the other models that we've got right now this year, like the Puma Deviate Nitro Elite 3 or the Asics Metaspeed Sky Paris as well? I mean, they're coming in at between 65 to 90 quid cheaper than the Alphafly 3. I guess if you're going to charge that sort of money for a shoe, then you've got to do some serious advertising, right? Got to let people know it's out there, and everybody does know this shoe exists. I think if we're talking Air technology, I think this one's perhaps more a half marathon or marathon shoe for me. Again, I think those foam midsole shoes are pretty much enough for the 5 and 10k distance, and personally I've run loads of halves in foam only shoes. This one always seemed to be a little bit overkill, though I do think it can benefit training at those half and full marathon paces as well. It's a bit more durable than perhaps that Adidas Pro Evo 1 model, and a darn sight cheaper. I can't believe I've actually found a shoe comparison where the Alphafly 3 appears sort of like good value, where I'm saying it's cheaper at 285 quid. It's almost like a budget option, I suppose, against the Pro Evo 1. There, I said it. That's like $500 or £450 here in the UK. A steep price, and perhaps may not have the cushion and comfort qualities that a heavier built runner might be after. So perhaps Nike don't have the super niche product that I think they did. Do you think the Alphafly 3 is like their gold standard for marathon running, regardless of pace? I mean, you can go out and buy a Gel Nimbus or a Kayano, can't you, for about 180 quid. If you're running the London Marathon, it's your once-in-a-lifetime ballot draw. Why not treat yourself and get yourself the best shoe you can possibly get? That aside, I don't think the Alphafly 3 is like the best shoe for everyone. I think the track-based models that they've got at the moment are even harder sell, really. They have a slightly more sparing use of air, but still use the Zoom X foam too. I think in the flooded market of running shoes, you really need something that's a unique identifier for the brand, and I still think that Air is doing that. You got the Cloud Tech pods from On, though there's no sign of them in their recent super shoe. Adidas have their lightness, I guess. Well, they used to have Boost, didn't they? But even that's changed now. Even with Nike adding Zoom X into the latest Jordan 39 shoe, it still has a full-length Air unit in there, along with a significant cup sole-like rubber section on the underside of the shoe. And Zoom X isn't deemed so significant for that one that they have to plaster it through the name. I think that's why Nike are putting all their chips into Air right now. It's their unique thing they have over all the other brands. And it's been doing that since they first utilised it, at least to the public anyway, in 1979 with the Tailwind, which makes air technology as old as me, and that's quite disturbing. So do you think Nike's reliance on air technology is holding them back, or should they stick with their tried and trusted tech? Can they even make any of their shoes even faster with air technology built into them, or have they kind of reached a ceiling? See what I did there? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Quick musical interlude for you. Every year I seem to come back to Neil Young at some point, sort of drift back there. He's almost like the musical healer, really. You check out some other stuff, but you always come back to Neil's music. I love the album On the Beach. I think it's from '74. There's a brilliant song on there which ends the album called Ambulance Blues. This song is based on a riff from a Burt Jansch effort, but with some fantastic Neil Young lyrics. There's a particularly good verse later on in the track, which is pretty much all just acoustic and vocals, where he's talking about journalists really, and where he and the journalists kind of exist in this symbiotic relationship. He has to release material for them to be able to kind of critique it, but it doesn't really sound like he cares all too much about what they think about his music. I've always seen Neil Young more as a artist, you know, painting with various different tools. He puts something up for you to look at, and by the time you've gone over and started looking at it, he's already working on something else. One of the best Neil Young songs ever. If you haven't checked out any of his material, I think On the Beach is a good place to start. Really interesting tunes on here. A very, very unique vibe to it all. It's certainly not your standard singer-songwriter material. On the Beach by Neil Young. Thanks for tuning in, people. It is always appreciated. Hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up like. Drop us a comment to help with the algorithm. My name's Eddbud, and I'll be seeing you